Hello everyone and good evening. You're welcome to the UCD Lochlann Quinn School of Business and to our information evening. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes here. There's a good number of people registered to join us this evening, so just wait for a couple of minutes before we get started to give people time to join in. I see people coming in there now, so just give it another couple of minutes. Great. Okay, so I think we shall get started. So good evening, everyone. You're very, very welcome. You're welcome to the UCD Lochlann Quinn School of Business and to this, our business information evening. It's always great when we organise events like this to see such the level of interest in our school. I know we had a lot of registrations for this evening and a lot of people hoping to join us from right across Ireland, but also we had a number of people from outside Ireland. So wherever you are joining us from, you are very, very welcome. There's probably some people on the call maybe who were here with us earlier in the year at our physical information events, but we do welcome a lot of students here to our school from across every county in Ireland and from across the world. So we thought it was good to host an online event to give you an opportunity to hear about our school here and what we can offer you. For anybody who isn't familiar with us or hasn't met us before, we are the UCD Lochlann Quinn School of Business, and we are an undergraduate business school. We are based here in the University College Dublin on the Belfield campus. And all the programs that we offer here in this school are business programs at our undergraduate level, and we'll share a little bit more about that with you now shortly. To introduce myself, my name is Valerie Abbott. I'm the student recruitment, I'm the marketing manager here, and part of my role here in the school is to talk to prospective students about our school and some of the opportunities that we offer, maybe why you might come and study with us. So it's a lovely job. It's lovely to talk to prospective students and then often to see them joining us here in September. There's four programs that we're going to speak about this evening. It's the Commerce International, the Economics and Finance, and the Business and Law program. And they're the four programs that sit in the school here. The proposal is that we're not going to go into too much detail about those programs in terms of, the real detail. That's available on our website in our prospectus, but we want to give a broad overview where we think there's more value on the school here and who we are and what we're about and why we think that there's a really good offering here in the school, but also for you as a prospective student, what it might be like when you come and study with us. So of course, I'm not going to do that alone. So I'm delighted to be joined this evening by a panel of colleagues. Sorry, I'll pop up on the screen now. My colleagues. So first we're going to hear from Associate Professor Maeve Houlihan. Maeve is the Associate Dean here in the school and she is the Academic Director in the Quinn School. So Maeve is going to talk to us for about 15 minutes on the school, the programmes, what's important to us, and a broad overview of the school. And then we're going to be joined by a panel of four students, one from each of our programs, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about their experience of the school, why they chose the programs, how they've got on, and some of their highlights. We have Mihaela Borta. Mihaela is joining us from Toronto this evening. She has just recently gone to Toronto on her exchange, so she's going to join us from there. Rory Chavez is studying Commerce International with us. He's actually in final year. Sorry, that says stage 3. Rory is in his final year, and Rory is studying Commerce International with Chinese. So it would be lovely to hear his perspective of learning Chinese, and he's here abroad last year. Molly Coogan then is joining us from our Business and Law program. And Molly will talk to us about that dual program that we run here. And then Rory Marin is studying commerce and he is currently on his internship. So Rory is going to talk to us a little bit, I suppose, about that internship and a lot more as well. So I suppose plan is that we'll be here until about 7 p.m. at the very latest, if not a little bit earlier. Maeve is going to speak to us first, then we're going to hear from our students, and then we're going to regroup back into a Q&A session at the end. I would encourage you all the way through to submit any questions that you have in the Q&A button down below. I'll be here all evening and I'll try and answer them, and then we'll try and pick some of them up again at the end of the event. So Maeve, over to you.
Well, Thank you so much, Valerie. It was really lovely to hear your introduction, actually, and especially to hear you reflect on what it's like working at Quinn. Because I suppose we try to practice what we preach. Quinn is an amazing community for students and for staff. Our faculty and our professional staff, we're one big team here, and really, there's a strong sense across all of us of loving what we do, but also really having a real ambition for our students and for the student experience that people can have here. We work very hard to create interesting opportunities. And I think you're going to hear a little bit about that.
Okay.
So, because we're online, it's probably helpful to do a little bit of visual to support what we're talking about. So I'm just sharing a screen with you now, and I think many of you will already be very clear that you're choosing business, and your question might be where, but some of you might be on tonight because you're rethinking or uncertain. I would say from the off, all of our ambition, and particularly mine, is that you find the right program for you. So we're not trying to sell you on our programs. What we want to do is make sure you have enough information to get the feeling of whether this is the place for you. And then it's about finding out, okay, how do I get there? What does it take? What are the points? All of those things. Okay, so we can answer the more detailed questions later. But if you're still at the is business for me question, um, ask everybody you speak to about what they think business is. I ask every student in our class. I have the privilege of teaching first years, so that large undergraduate first year, stage one, term one experience. And I would always say, why are you studying business? And often there's a whole pile of hands, particularly at the back, who might be saying, to make money. And that might indeed be why you want to study business. But I would say that we have a broader view of actually what happens here in the business school and what is made possible. And I think ultimately, while money can be a byproduct of business, business is about making things happen. It's about getting things done. It's about problem solving. It's about identifying and connecting needs and solutions. So I'd be keeping those things in mind. And obviously, there are such extraordinary examples from our recent history in terms of the pandemic and all of the science and innovation that happened so quickly and then involved a distribution and a supply chain for vaccines or the management of people, the communications. All of those are actually business activities. They're things we think about here. So ultimately, that's what we're about in the business school, identifying needs, opportunities, solutions, how to add value to situations, how to get things done. So I think those are really good reasons to think about business. And that is as true as if you were interested in finance or aviation, finance or leasing of planes, or perhaps you're interested in running a theatre, or perhaps you're interested in managing a healthcare system, or perhaps you're interested in running a coffee shop. So keep all of those things in mind. Now, another good thing that you might get if studying business, and indeed what you should look for in any good degree, is to stretch your skills. And certainly in a business degree, we know that you're going to get a real input on some of these key skills. Business awareness, clearly we, are immersed in the language and activities and current affairs of business. So you'll be very informed in the school, but also really stretching your analytical skills, your communication skills. And you're going to see that, I think, with our student panel. We're really proud that our students stand with us side by side in talking about their programs. And we see that as not only demonstrating their skills, but really important leadership as well. We love to see members of the school being part of the community and helping communicate what happens here. Alongside that, things like managing your time, setting goals, problem solving, a lot of teamwork, all of those things are things that you should look for in any degree that you study, but you certainly would see a lot of in studying business. A good question then is, okay, I'm interested in business. Now, where should I study business? And of course, you can do that in lots of the great universities around Ireland and internationally and in other places as well. But I would say at Quinn, we really try to do a very particular type of education. We have four main programs here. Our landmark Bachelor of Commerce, and I say landmark because it's 100 and more than 110 years old now, so it really has a long history. The BCom is very well known internationally, and if you look across Irish and global industry, you find BCom graduates everywhere. Um, so the BCom is, if you like, it's the central pillar on which the undergraduate business school here at Quinn is built. And from that, I've developed a number of really now very well established and long tradition programs as well. Business and Law is a partnership with the wonderful Sutherland School of Law, which is just next door to us here on the Belfield campus. And that's a joint degree. You'll hear more about that from Molly in particular later on. Economics and finance is a really interesting partnership between ourselves, the School of Economics, and other schools, including maths and stats, across the university. And it's a more quantitative specialist degree, but very much with the Quinn hallmarks that you're going to hear about this evening. And I'm delighted that you'll hear more from Mihaela shortly about that as well. And actually, then the Commerce International program, you're going to hear more from Rory Chavas about. And Commerce International is a joint degree with our School of Languages, Culture and Linguistics and the Irish Institute of Chinese Studies. So it's very focused not only on language, but the culture of the language group that you're studying. And it's a joint degree. So those are four amazing degrees, and they're quite different. So being on this call, choosing to consider Quinn, I think you have a chance to find out more about why and which one might be for you. So I guess, say a little bit more about that. I don't like blowing our trumpets, but I think it is important that you know that the Quinn School really is a very well regarded school, not only domestically but internationally, and really is at the top of its field in the international business school story. We're, accredited by business school networks worldwide, both US orientated and European orientated. And over that 110 years, we've really invested in innovation and a long history of thought leadership that I'm confident will steer you well if you choose to be here. But I'll leave that speak for itself. One of the reasons I think that the Quinn School is really worth taking seriously is because the thought and investment we've put into what I would describe as the rising generations of business and what I would also call generation change. I think we're in a very interesting moment in the world, a challenging moment in the world, and there is a lot that business has to offer in terms of all the great global challenges that are on our minds right now, and also many solutions that business can offer. So I know that many of the students that come here have those kind of issues in mind. I want to talk a little bit about that with you to give you a feeling for what I mean there. But our students are amazing, and I think it is ultimately about listening to and maybe coming and spending some time here if you want to, if you can, to get a feeling for the students that come here and what they are ambitious to achieve. Because ultimately, our ambition together is to build a better world and to build better futures together. So to do that, we have invested a lot in our curriculum. We've invested a lot in our student experience. We've invested a lot in particular in the last several years in our spaces. And I think it's useful to think about spaces as a way of explaining this. And also as a quick cook's tour of some of our spaces in the school. This space is perhaps on one level a more traditional lecture theatre kind of experience, a large group gathering and, involved in a talk, but actually it's in a very special place. This theatre is one of the most extraordinary theatres on campus here at UCD. It's full of light and it's very much geared towards a space where, while it is a big theatre with lots of people in it, it's a space where your voice, it can be heard and is wanted to be heard. We use these throwable mics, these orange boxes you see at the front, as part to make sure there's plenty of dialogue and not only monologue in a place like that. But one part of why you come to college is to have space to think and to encounter ideas. And I hope in lecture experiences, that is what you will encounter. I'm confident that it is. And the reason for that is because most of the lecturers that are in front of you are themselves active knowledge creators. They're researchers leading in their fields, whatever the topic is, and they're speaking to you informed by live research that they have done and really are up to date in the current trends. So that space to think is a very important part of what happens here at the Quinn School. But not only just in that sense of absorbing knowledge, but also in using knowledge and thinking differently perhaps about the knowledge. This shot is one of my colleagues, Professor Colin Lochlann, and Colin teaches a particular module, Business and Society, that every Quinn student takes. And one of the ambitions of that module is that you consider and get more informed by some of the big global challenges that confront us all at the moment, from climate to sustainability, to gender and diversity, and right across to other areas, and also that you spend some time debating, and perhaps debating from a perspective different to the one you hold. And Colin very much challenges students in that module to do that. So thinking differently is important, not only thinking according to what you've been told. It's maybe a good moment to hear from some of our graduates. So I thought I would just mention two. So first, I'm mentioning Elaine Ruan, who's a graduate of the BCom program. And Elaine did the BCom a little while ago now, coming up on 10 years, but it's so interesting the pathway she chose to take from there. So she's decided to specialize in tech and in particular programming. She was really drawn to that area and she went there from the BCom. She did a master's in computer science and ultimately went on to do a PhD, and way ahead of time was deeply immersed in the world of artificial intelligence and building a safer AI world. But just recently, I asked Elaine to comment on what she feels the big considerations are for our rising generation, you, the future students of programs like ours. And she says no business leader can escape AI and the advancements that are coming in the next few years. So knowing how to cut through the hype, that's very important. Cut through the hype and actually add value with AI tools will be crucial. So she would like to see, and she's part of our conversation here, informing the curriculum, that we move beyond data-driven to data-informed in how we make decisions, and knowing how to interpret and use data for decision making is a key skill. And so lots of our modules built around that very idea. You being really skilled in the use of tools, really aware of what tools do, their pros and cons, and understanding the debates behind that. So that's Elaine. Another student, not so long ago, a graduate of the BCom International, is Anna Carthy. Anna went on from Quinn to do a master's in environmental change at Oxford. She worked for a time with the Red Cross and is currently working with a really interesting NGO based out of the UK, but focused very much on sustainability. And Anna says, above all, for her, that the climate and the environmental crisis are a key priority, that she sees Quinn students needing to be really informed about. Okay. And for her, For her, she says this is the most fundamental challenge that we're facing. Of course, so many people would agree with that. And engaging people in a way that I suppose gives people hope and optimism, as well as understanding and insight, is the task. And modules in Quinn strive exactly to do that, beginning with business and society, and then with lots of subsequent modules like sustainable supply chain or advanced business and society options that you might choose. And so a little more from Anna, this means talking about the climate crisis, but also intersecting global challenges like biodiversity, inequality, debt, the cost of living, even the pandemic, and underlying systems of power. So she calls for a really deeper view of what it is that you might consider as a business student. We firmly agree, and many of the academics here in the school work on exactly this challenge. So there's just maybe two graduates you wouldn't expect, but really important aspects of themes that are core here at the school. I said to you that, we're all about the spaces, and we use spaces in lots of different ways because we really understand and hear from students themselves, the difference space can make. So we've created over the last couple of years a whole new wing in the school. And this is called the Moore Centre for Business. And you see an image of it here. It's very intentionally designed to support collaboration and to give you lots of opportunities to meet with other people, perhaps informally by accident, you're just running into them, or perhaps very intentionally as part of a team project or alliance that you're involved in. So lots of opportunities for that, including studios, bookable studios, and some lecture theatres that are specifically designed to be reconfigurable around your team projects. And we do that because we know that the skills as well as the knowledge are really important. And we're looking for you to acquire really deep skills in problem solving, in collaboration, and ultimately a great capacity for adaptation, adaptability, and all that goes with that. It's not only us that sees that, it's pretty much every employer and all of the think tanks around the world. When we think about what the future of skills is, we know that really these type of skills are at the heartland of how to equip the rising generation. So some more images, some of the spaces and places where you get to do some of these things around Quinn. And we've always had a strong emphasis on tech and being tech savvy in the school. But of course, we just see that as a tool, not the whole story. For us, it's about making sure that you're getting to stretch and lean into your capacities and strengths and have opportunities to try out things perhaps that you haven't before. And just as I mentioned, the students on the call this evening, doing exactly that kind of thing, choosing to come and maybe, participate in a webinar like this or give a presentation. Well, we see those kind of opportunities throughout the program, and some highlights are our mentoring program at Quinn, which is available to all second years to team you up with an alum of the school, to have maybe 4 or 5 meetings across a structured time period, and for you to get to think about your career, ask questions about their career, learn about possibilities, and be encouraged in the development of your CV or a particular challenge you might want to address. The Quinn internship program you're going to hear about tonight, but it's the opportunity to work. Quinn Sites, if you're not sure what you want to do, well, Quinn Sites in first year is really good exposure to a variety of sectors and organizations, getting to get out into an organization for an afternoon to see what they do, get a feeling for their culture, the opportunity to study abroad, and overall just a lot of different opportunities to expand and stretch as a person while at Quinn. In mentioning the internship, I mean, it really is important to say that this is a remarkable feature, particularly for students of the BCom and the Economics and Finance program. More than 80% of students of both of those programs now choose to do the penultimate year as to add an additional year to the 3-year program and do a year's paid internship. Very great opportunity here at the school if you choose to do that. And indeed, if your program is one where that's not possible, so already a 4-year program as business and law and BCom International are, well, you still have the opportunity for a summer internship, and we support you in that as well. We think it's important that our students also have space to create. So clearly presentations, team projects, but lots of different ways in which we're not only analyzing things, but we're adding value and creating new products and ideas, designs, visual communication, and so on. So there's a wonderful media suite. And in fact, I was just hearing this afternoon about one of our students running a podcast series, and there's a lot of great opportunities like that in our ecosystem. Space to connect. Well, that really speaks to an extraordinary community here. There are more than 2,000 students at the Quinn School. There's also another more than 1,500 students in our sister school, the Graduate Smurfit School of Business, down the road. And of course, there's the wider ecosystem of Belfield and UCD and all the faculties. But there is also an alumni network that goes back all of that 110 years. And our alumni are really close partners with us. They're often returning as employers, certainly coming to speak to classes and really invested in the success of the school. And that's magic. If you're interested in our alum, please do check out the alumni page. You could scan, have a look at our prospectus through that scan link, or indeed you can see some of our fab graduates here. And what we love to see is the range of things people do. We have entrepreneurs like Amy Connolly, who's that extraordinary business that has made such an impact not only in Ireland but internationally over the last several years and is really growing rapidly. We have a graduate such as Jane Ann McKenna, who leads DOCUS, working in the aid and NGO sector, or Aoife Connaughton, who's working in Deloitte, BCom International graduate, who's a real thought leader in sustainability. So just a few. You please do feel very encouraged to have a look at some of our alum. Finally, I would say space to contribute, and that's very important to me. I think we're a circular community, just as a circular economy, and it is about recognizing that we learn and gain sometimes most when we're actually involved in contributing. We've developed a really interesting community here in the last year or two around a program called LIFT. You might even have encountered it in your school or workplace. But the LIFT program, Leading Ireland's Future Together, actually started by a BCom graduate, Joanne Hession, is intentionally working in small groups to just have conversations about what leadership looks like. And so this year, we've had 55 of our senior students work with more than 220 of our first year students in LIFT teams, spending over the course of 6 weeks, an hour a week, just sitting down together, talking about a particular leadership value. It's amazing. It's all voluntary and part of our community here at Quinn. Along with that, I guess we really cherish the idea that this is a very diverse and international community, and we have students from, it varies year on year, but really in the round up to 50 nations at a time. And that's remarkable because it means that you're able to learn literally here and now with the people around you about global business through conversation, how things are different in all of our respective homes. So that just, I hope, gives you a feeling about what we're about and the spaces that we've tried to curate here, and all of the different ways in which you can stretch and lead. One of them, of course, you'll hear more about from our students is that opportunity to go abroad, which is available in the most part in the second year, so second term and second year. And then for BCom International is possible for a whole year in third year. It's core to the program. So I've talked for a long time. I'd like to move to the panel now and maybe just remind us of the 4 core programs we're speaking about this evening as you think about which program is right for you. And so I'll take us off screen, but maybe what I'll do, just in case you have questions about it before calling on our panelists, I'm just going to briefly reference this next screen. This next screen is the kind of worst part, okay, because it's all the details. But you might want to screen grab that if you're interested, or take a snap of it, and we will come back to it later if you have questions about it. What's much more important really is understanding more about the program first, and then of course you can think of that, okay, now what would I need to get into that program if I want? So I'll take my deck off screen and I'll stop sharing, but I'm delighted now to welcome Mihaela, Rory, Shavas, Rory Moran, and Molly Coogan. And as you join, each of you, hopefully we'll just get a sense, and you'll see some of our backdrops click in as well, so you'll get a sense. Hi, folks. You're really welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I know Rory, yeah, there we've got everybody. So you know, you can see us all now. And so we'll probably just begin with a simple, I think, just to hear a little bit from everybody, and then we'll move more into dialogue. My very first question is, I suppose, each of you are representing a particular program. So could I ask you in turn maybe to tell us about your program? We might begin with the BCom, Rory, was that okay? And just to tell us about your program and how you describe it, just very briefly. And we'll just get that sense. There's probably a reason you chose that program. So over to you, Rory.
For sure. Thanks a million, Maeve. Hi, everyone. So I'm a bit of an introduction on myself. My name is Rory and I'm from Ballina in County Mayo. I kind of chose the BCom program because when I initially learned about it, I wasn't fully sure exactly what I wanted to do kind of in the future, but I did know I kind of wanted to go down some sort of business route. So essentially I felt that, you know, the modules in BCom, you know, you can specialize in whatever you want. So the first 2 years are quite generic in terms of you get a full exposure to economics, to business, to finance, to accounting, to marketing. So you kind of get a great overview of, you know, all the different, I suppose, industries that, you know, you could technically pursue. The real reason I kind of chose it was the opportunity to do the internship program. For me, I've done about 7 months of my internship already, and I'm really looking forward to going back for my final year in September. But it was a great year so far in terms of, you know, figuring out, you know, what I actually want to do with my life after I graduate. So the first 2 years of your program obviously are very, very much being like, you know, here's what business is, here's whatever you're interested in. But, you know, after doing, I suppose, my internship that I'm currently doing, it's definitely kind of the line of work I want to go down after I graduate. And I don't think I would have fully realized that unless I, you know, did the internship program. And I think it's a very unique aspect that UCD offer. And I know a lot of colleges don't have that. So that for me was the main reason I came and chose BCom.
Thanks so much, Rory. So yeah, the BCom, a real all-rounder exposure to business with very specific interest for you on the internship. That's great. Who would like to go next in introducing your program? Will we try to become international? Rory, yeah, thank you.
Hi guys, so I'm Rory. I'm originally from Dungarvan down in Washford, and I suppose I picked Commerce International because I didn't really know what I wanted to do either, and I really enjoyed languages in school, but I also enjoyed the business subjects. So it was a bit of a no-brainer, but it is also, like commerce, quite open-ended, and there's a very broad range of things you can go into. So I'm in my final year at the moment, so that's kind of what I'm looking at the moment, just careers and where to go next. And there's just so many different areas you can go to. They're not all business related. I mean, there's just so many different pathways, I suppose. My Quinn story, I started in September 2020 online during COVID. And since then, I've completed 2 summer internships, one in KPMG in Dublin and another in a healthcare company in Thailand. And I've also done a full year abroad at the Singapore Management University, which was last year. And that was because I'm studying Chinese as my language. So it was great exposure to, you know, the culture and the way of life and business in Asia, and I had the chance to do some sort of Asia related business modules. So it really, you know, really furthered my degree, especially considering I'm learning the Chinese.
Yeah, so you're really getting across that it's not only understanding a language, but actually living the culture, like the insider perspective on a culture, Rory.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, thanks for shedding light on that. And it is heartening to hear how much has been possible despite that, you know, inauspicious start for everybody in 2020. Okay. All right. Will we turn to business and law then, Molly? Would that be okay? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maeve. So hi everyone, I'm Molly. I'm from Castlecomer in County Kilkenny. When I was back in your shoes doing my leaving cert, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. And I was kind of in 2 minds between business and law, trying to decide which to do, and then realized that there was the option to do both. So because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I wanted something broad, something you didn't need to know, and it was you could kind of specialize in different things. What I liked about the offer in UCD Business and Law was that you didn't have to pick one or the other. So you do both 50-50. And then when you get to your later years, you can kind of pick and choose your modules as you go. So after you know a little bit what you like. Whereas from the start, I had no idea what I was going to like. And I would recommend that to you guys if you are thinking about it, to have a look at the course, the website especially, because you can see a list of all the modules for all the years and what kind of thing you might be interested in. So for example, in law, I've done things like evidence law, contract law, employment law, and then you can do a bit of criminology, like the psychology of law. And then in business, if you're into your numbers and your maths, maybe you do finance, accounting, economics. But then there's also things like human resource management or marketing. So you really come out of it at the end with a degree that's tailored to you and unique to what you're interested in. So even now I'm in final year and I'm not 100% sure what I will do afterwards. And that was kind of the nice thing. That's what I liked about going into business and law. And then like Rory, there was the opportunity to study abroad, which I did last year. So those are the things that really drew me to it, and I'm glad I chose it.
Well, that's amazing, Molly. And of course, business and law is a 4-year degree, which means there isn't the internship option, although there is a supported summer internship scope in both the business side and the law side. The business side is coming through this year. So, and it's great to hear you, as well, you really enunciate the different business areas. That is so helpful. And I think that reflects the core disciplines that Rory was speaking about in relation to the BCom. And that's also true for BCom International. So those 3 degrees really share that core infrastructure. So thanks, Molly. You've really shed light on that. Well, we hear about economics and finance now. So a sister degree, but definitely a distinctive degree. Mihaela.
Sure, thanks, Maeve. Hi, everyone. So I'm Mihaela, and I'm currently in my 2nd year of my economics and finance degree. I'm currently actually on my exchange abroad at University of Toronto. So as part of economics and finance, you actually have the option as well to study abroad for half the year. So if I would get into why I picked economics and finance, partly because I've really enjoyed maths during secondary school. I definitely did find it very demanding, but I thought it was very logical. And when the teacher kind of drew from maths to real world examples, I thought that was really interesting. And then aside from that, I realized the importance of like global economies in our day-to-day lives and the fact that there's so many factors that affect the financial landscape every day. So I just thought it would be a good opportunity to have a job where I would work in the finance industry while also being able to use numbers and continue, I guess, this passion for maths. So the economics and finance degree just blends these 2 passions very well. It provides a good analytical rigor and then real world applications to finance as well. So in our 1st year, we develop these theories that we would need to use later on. So we study things like finance, statistical modeling, some economic subjects. And then in the 2nd year, we go into more applications. So for example, we have a module called Intro to Programming, where we learn how to code using Python. We have this subject called Econometrics, where we use statistical methods to talk about empirical evidence and academic papers. And then corporate finance modules, where we actually see the extent to which the finance principles that we learn apply to real world examples. So I've really enjoyed so far my journey in economics and finance. I think it's been like the perfect course for me. And yeah.
You really painted the picture there of the scale, you know, with the rigor, you know, and the analytics, but actually the real world application as well, Mihaela. So thank you. And thank you for joining us all the way from Toronto this evening, which is, you know, which is really spectacular. And as you've heard, there's been many other places and spaces that our students have been over the last little while. I'd like to briefly ask, just to stay on the curriculum story, so to ask each of you to maybe tell us a little more about one module, or you know, more if you like, but really a sense of something that you've studied here, to give us and participants a sense of how the teaching and learning goes down here in the school. And then I know after that we're going to talk about all of the other things, the internships, the study abroad and societies. So who would like to start on just a module? We can follow the same order unless anyone wants to jump in. Okay, Rory, yeah, will we go for the...
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good. Of course, there's been so many modules that I found interesting, but for me, probably the most interesting was in my first year, second semester, and it was business management simulation. And what that essentially was is that everyone was kind of tasked with running their own business online for the course of the 12 weeks or whatever, however long the module runs for. So what kind of was interesting about that is that you're put in a team with maybe 4 or 5 people in your group. And on top of your lectures, you're tasked with managing and running a business from start to finish. And ultimately, it's a platform online where you kind of do everything from marketing to running the financials to research and development and things like that. So you're kind of faced with a lot of business decisions throughout it. So you're working as a team to be like, how are we going to grow into certain markets? What are the way to target? You know, what are the way to grow sales? Things like that. And each week you're kind of competing with your class. So ultimately they'd be like, you know, which business did well this week, which business did not. And it kind of created that element of competitiveness and I suppose making the right business decision. So, you know, you were given, say, a certain budget for the week, and do you put that all into developing a better product, or do you put it into expanding into a new market? And these were kind of all the decisions you had to make. So whilst it's not directly linked to business, it definitely gave a good taster of, to, I suppose, you know, how a business operates, how a business runs. And each week you were either the CEO or you were some sort of directorship position, so you had to change that over. So one week you could be involved with finances and the next week marketing. So for me, it was definitely the most interesting and I suppose hands-on.
Great to hear about it. Thanks, Rory. And yes, we often hear, you know, you can really tell when people are in mid-simulation because it gets intense, as you said.
Yeah, for sure.
Very real. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Rory, did you want to speak to your module? Rory.
Yeah, so one of the option modules I did last semester was called Strategic Digital Decision Making. So it encompasses, you know, taking big data and making and applying business strategies to making decisions. So it's kind of it's a great module because it encompasses all sorts. It's part of the management information systems school, and so it's sort of one of the things we learned about was using the Bloomberg terminals, which we're really lucky to have in Quinn. So these are, you can actually see them in the picture behind Mihaela there. They provide sort of up-to-date financial information on stocks and shares around the world and other things. So we had to use data from them to create investment proposals. So I had to find various metrics and analyst recommendations about Apple and Ryanair for my project and create an infographic as to why you might want to invest in them. Additionally, we also got to take part in the Bloomberg Trading Challenge, which is a global challenge across multiple universities with over 2,000 teams, I think, part of it. So at one point, we were first in Ireland and in the top 50 in the world out of over 2,000 teams. Now, we didn't finish that well, but it's a really exciting challenge because you're given $1 million fake dollars to invest and you can do whatever you want with it. So, you know, it was really about analyzing the data on Bloomberg to see what the right decisions were. Another thing is we had to complete digital intelligence certificates. So these are actual qualifications you can put on your CV, which teach you more about making these decisions in the digital world. And then finally, we had a big data business simulation. So slightly similar to the one Rory was just talking about there. It was done individually though. So you made these decisions for a company about all sorts within the business, be it their marketing, their distribution, their manufacturing, and you had to base these decisions on big data by analyzing it. And then based on your results, we had to create data visualizations in our final report. So it really was all encompassing, you know, in terms of digital literacy, data analytics, and even just finance knowledge in general. So a really good module.
Great to hear about it, Rory. And I'm smiling that, you know, what looks like just terminals behind Mihaela there, you know, but that's the whole point. The information, the value of that information in those terminals is really powerful to have access to that and to be able to draw down live information from the markets. So thank you, on companies. So thank you so much, Rory. Molly, would you like to take us through your?
One of the optional modules I did last semester, so it's fresh in my head, was consumer insight research and data planning. So I really enjoyed that one. It was kind of based on a group project. So the idea was it's a market research module. It's about how a market research company would help a brand figure out if there's a market for their product or service, basically. And what I really liked about it was very much a real world application of what we were learning in class. So we spent the first couple of weeks learning about the different kinds of research, the different kinds of data, and how you get reliable research. The different kinds. So we had like our quantitative, which is your percentages, your statistics, your quantities, and then qualitative, which was deeper insights, maybe people's emotions and feelings about things, services or products. And then we had to go out and find this information. So we were given a couple of prompts. We picked UCD Gym. So what we did for ours, we were doing our research from the perspective of a company that was setting up a new gym near UCD. So in Clonskeagh, we had said, and then would students in UCD go to that gym instead of going to UCD Gym? So we had to write up a topic guide of questions, and we decided to do qualitative. We wanted to get like real deep insights into, you know, what people's thoughts on the gym. So we had a number of focus groups. So we were dragging our friends from all different areas of UCD into Quinn, into the meeting rooms to try and find out why they go to the gym or why they go to a different gym. And then we had to write all that up, see what trends we could find, what insights, put into a report and present it to our class, which is absolutely what they do in a market research company. So it was really based on real world. We kind of felt like we were actually working for a company, even though it was pretend. So we really enjoyed that, and we'll know next week when we get our results how it went. But we enjoyed.
Good luck with that's great. And I'm, you know, as you speak about it, it's so directly connected to what market research companies do. I'm thrilled you've had that experience. Thanks, Molly. And Mihaela.
So I think I definitely mentioned this module when I spoke earlier on, but corporate finance was a module that I really, really enjoyed. So all the topics that we learned throughout the term, we were able to apply later on in the group project that we worked on. So the group project in corporate finance was to pick a company, a public listed company, one of the big ones such as Microsoft, Apple, Boeing, and then to write up a report with the headlines of all the different topics that we've studied. So for example, our group chose Microsoft, and we had to look at how their debt policy is made up, the corporate governance issues that the company might be facing, agency issues, the corporate financial structure of the company. So it was really interesting because we got to apply all the things that we learned in the class to an actual professional report that we had to write up. And then quickly, another module that I also mentioned was econometrics. The reason why I really, really enjoyed this one was because we looked at actual papers published, and we were able to challenge all of the ideas that were mentioned in these papers. So for example, if there's a paper that says that students who live in areas with loads of trees do good in their Leaving Cert, that does not mean that you should move to an area that has trees to do good in your Leaving Cert. It just might mean that there's correlation between those two things, but there's not actually causation. We also looked at things like, does pollution and crime cause each other? So does an increase in pollution in an area lead to more crime? Or if certain people are convicted of crimes, do they end up recommitting the crime after they go out of prison? So econometrics was a really good module because you got to apply loads of these statistical techniques to policy issues and economical issues.
Yeah, and I love that it ends up in critical thinking and asking better questions as well, Michaela. So thank you for that. Gosh, there's so much. I love hearing you talk about your module experiences. So thank you to each of you. I know that each of you might like to just speak a bit more about an experience or some feature of the program. And as we come, I suppose, towards the end of our time, we see that there is lots of questions from you, the audience, and we'll definitely circle back, right, Valerie, and answer those. But I'd just like to give each of you a chance to put a spotlight on something, whether it's societies or your study abroad or your internship that you'd really like to mention. So maybe we'll just follow the same order again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's for me, it's quite hard to pick something that is, you know, but I suppose within college, my highlight would probably have been last year going to New York University and representing UCD at a thing called Model United Nations. And basically it's just, where you compete against other schools, pretending that you're in, I suppose, the United Nations, and you're given situations and tasks. And we're actually going to Harvard in next month for that as well. So that's just something I was really interested in kind of when I learned about it. And I've really enjoyed taking part in the different events we've done for it. So that kind of would be a highlight for me.
That's brilliant. And, that's you leaning into, you seeing an opportunity, chasing it up. It's a student-led initiative. We love to see it happen here, but it's part of the ecosystem rather than that everybody has to do that. You chased it up. We love that. Thanks,
Sure.
Rory. Okay. And Rory, see? Yeah.
I suppose for me, it's been being able to work with the Irish Institute for Chinese Studies and the Confucius Institute on campus here at UCD. I mean, only last week, I'm sure you saw in the news, the Chinese premier was over, and the Chinese National News Company were over doing a story on the Confucius Institute at UCD and asked me to be in it. So I was on the national news in China last week. And before Christmas, I met the Chinese Minister for Education, and all of these really exciting events happen in the Confucius Institute, and we're so lucky to be able to get involved. Studying Chinese as part of my degree.
That's amazing to hear. And like in real time, literally, Rory, sometimes these things occur, and we're lucky as part of UCD, to have those opportunities. So that's great. It's also worth mentioning that the Institute for Chinese Studies and Confucius Center is just across the lake from Quinn, and interestingly enough, it's a very good restaurant. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And Molly, what would you want to spotlight?
I'd have to say an integral part of my time in UCD has really been the societies, and as well for people that are thinking of coming to UCD. When I came up first as a first year, it was a little bit frightening. There were a lot of people. I was from a small town and a small school, and UCD is big. I mean, there's great services and everything, but there's a lot of people. So I kind of found joining a society gave me my smaller community and to make friends and meet like-minded people. And for like maybe it's sport or GAA or trampolining club, or it could be law soc or food soc. And then for me, it was the musical society. So I've worked on a couple of things with them. I produced 9 to 5, the musical last year, the Dolly Parton musical. I'm doing another one now. It's coming up in March. I've done costumes for a couple of shows. And I loved that. That really worked for me. And it also was kind of started to link back to things I was studying in Quinn, when it came to kind of the management and the producing and everything. And then I have to mention my semester abroad. So this time last year, I headed off to Sydney as part of my course, and 10 of us from the business and law program. So this time last year I was in sunny Sydney and now I'm here, but 10 of us from the course went. So we knew people, we had so much fun. We got to meet people from all over the world and study in a new university, different cultures, figure out how they do business over there. And again, there was a musical society there and I did a bit with them. My costume managed a show. So you'll find the interest in it. It all links together. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
It's brilliant. And Molly, you and I first met because you pitched me on sponsoring the musical 9 to 5, wasn't that right? So that was your applied skills in action there. So thank you for that. Look, you know, it is extraordinary to hear the range. And Mihaela, what would you want to spotlight?
So I guess the highlight so far has been just a couple of weeks ago. I took part in this great opportunity, which is funded and created by UCD, Quinn School of Business, the Nobel Prize Museum, EF Education First, and then the Foreign Education Abroad. So all of these groups created this program called the Future Nobel Laureate Scholars. So 10 students in the world are chosen to take part in this online module throughout the 12 weeks leading up to December, where we study intercultural communication. So all of us which were chosen were really passionate about certain things that we thought would advance equity and justice in the world. So we talked about, we read a book and we talked about many things like people from different cultures interacting with each other, culture sensitivity, how different cultures regard their whole day and how they think they should spend it. We were paired in groups and we worked on different projects on different themes. And then in December, we got the opportunity to go to Stockholm and Gothenburg in Sweden. So when we were there, we attended the Nobel Dialogues. So this was a day where we got to hear from great people, past Nobel Prize laureates and other people which work in different fields on the topic of migration. And then just the day after that, we were all very, very fortunate to actually attend the Nobel Prize ceremony, where this year's Nobel Prize laureates were awarded their prizes. So I think it was an awesome experience, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I'm very, very grateful to be a part of. And if it wasn't for Quinn, I wouldn't be able to, because if you're a part of Quinn, Quinn sends one of their students every year to take part in this opportunity. So it's definitely something very, very huge to be a part of.
Oh, well, it's great to hear about that. And it takes, we like to create a lot of our opportunities in the school, but it also takes the personal stretch of applying and putting your name forward and so many good things happen when you make that decision. So hopefully you're making that decision in terms of thinking about whether your future is in the Quinn School or one of our programs. Valerie, I know that there will be some questions, so will I hand over to you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. Thanks, everybody. Lots of information there, but there's a good few questions coming in. Rory, I might just ask you first, there's a couple of questions about studying a language. And so maybe could you just tell us really quickly, I suppose, the breakdown of studying business and studying language and how that works, and then how you found studying language. And I think that will incorporate some of the questions together for people that have been sending in questions, and particularly Chinese, I suppose. Picking up Chinese.
Yeah, sure. So the way it really works in UCD is it's not quite a 50-50 split. So for first year and for the first half of second year, you do more business modules. So you're doing 3 business modules, or 3 or 4 business modules, and 2 language modules, and potentially an elective module as well, which is separate. Then in final year, actually, sorry, it's the same thing in final year as well. But in first year, what happens is you'll come in with, most likely you'll be coming in with 2 different languages. So I came into the course doing Spanish and Chinese. I did Spanish in school, and the plan was always to do Spanish, and I really enjoyed Spanish. And then the reason why they make you pick the second language is in case you have a change of mind. And that's what happened to me, and I was learning online, so it was a little different, and I just wasn't loving Spanish as much as I was back in school. So I made the very brave decision to switch to Chinese full time, which has really paid off. And I've loved it, and all the opportunities it's brought to me has been massive. In terms of the opportunities I've had within college, and now looking at my careers, it's really opened a lot of doors for me. So I'd highly recommend Chinese, but I do recommend the other languages as well, of course. One of the best parts about Commerce International, I think, and studying the language is we are a smaller course. There's about 90 of us, 90 to 100. And we get to know each other really well. Like there's a lot of close groups within our course, and even within the language classes, because they're small classes. There's only 7 of us in my Chinese class this semester. So it gives you a great opportunity to get to know the people in the class, as opposed to in some of the bigger classes you might take in the other courses. So it's been really great for making friends as well, especially if you're moving up to Dublin for the first time. I think it's brilliant for that as well. But as well as the language, the cultures, the non-linguistic modules, I suppose, you cover are great as well. It gives you great insight into the culture of the country, of the language that you're studying. So some of the ones we've done in Chinese, so this semester we're doing one called Doing Business in China. We've also learned about the Chinese economy, Chinese society, the Chinese calligraphy. There's a wide range of culture modules that go alongside the language modules. So it's not pure language. It gives you an idea of the country and the language as a whole, as opposed to just the language. It's a great balance.
I think it's an immersive program, isn't it? When you're studying the language, you're immersed in that country and understanding how to do business.
Yeah,
right.
And that's what the year abroad provides as well.
Right. Okay. Another question that's come in here and that I get all the time when I'm talking to prospective students is around maths and the element of maths that's in the programs. So I might ask maybe Michaela and Rory Myron to comment on that, because I suppose economics and finance and commerce, it's very different. And Michaela, there is a question here specifically to economics and finance. How much maths is there? Is there a lot of maths? And I know the answer is yes, there is a lot of maths, but maybe just if you want to make a couple of comments on that. I think you referred to it earlier, but
Sure. So in first year, I guess we have 5 core modules that we have to do, and usually there'll be about 2 or 3 of them that would like be very mathsy based. So in first year we have math subjects like linear algebra, and then intro to analysis, and then we have things like advanced calculus and differential equations. So there'll be 2 or 3 maths, very like heavy maths subjects, but they would really, really help you later on in like other subjects. So in the following year, in the second year, those concepts will definitely come back. And in the following year, if it isn't a subject that has maths in its name, it would be something like Intro to Probability, which would again have some maths elements, or even statistical modeling or econometrics. They would always, these like maths like concepts would definitely always come back. So it's something that like follows you along the whole program.
Yeah, I think the advice we would always give is, if you're considering economics and finance, you really should love maths, because it's kind of integral to the program. And then perhaps Rory, Myron, I might just ask you on the commerce, because we would often get asked that for people considering commerce, and they think maybe there's a lot of maths, or and they maybe don't have a huge interest in maths. What's your take on that, as to how much maths there is, and then for somebody who either loves or doesn't love it as they go through the years?
For sure. Well, for me personally, during my Leaving Cert, I kind of struggled during Leaving Cert maths and the curriculum, and when I was looking at courses, I was a bit apprehensive about the commerce degree and what level of maths. But for me, it's been very I suppose there's certain modules that would be maths based, but they're not to like a too hard degree. They're a degree that everyone who's willing to work hard, I suppose, can do well in it. There's kind of a lot of accounting, so a big part of commerce is the accounting modules, and a great part of the program is that if you do a certain amount of the accounting modules, you ultimately can get an exemption in the accounting exams in the future, if that's something that you're considering doing. And even if you're not considering doing kind of going down the accounting route, it's definitely accessible for most people, and there's a lot of support there throughout the program. And I'll have the option as well in my final year to decide if I want to specialize in accounting, or that's kind of the great thing about the degree is that come final year you'll have a good knowledge of what interests you. On top of, say, my internship, I kind of have an interest in accounting now, so I probably am looking to specialize in final year in that. But then I know people who are more interested in marketing, or more interested in, who are going to go down that route. So for the first 2 years, it's very kind of a good level for most people, and there's a lot of support along the way. So I wouldn't put it shouldn't put you off anyway.
Yeah, perfect. And I think for somebody who is considering commerce and who isn't that interested in the math side, it is possible by final year to have very few the kind of accounting,
sure,
finance, maths modules as well. Perfect. There's a good number of people as well asking how many hours, and I think people are inquiring about how many hours of lectures, and then are the class big? So I don't know, Molly, maybe do you want to talk about that? Oh, I think business and law probably has slightly more hours than everybody else. But I suppose in terms, we'd often say that it's a large school, and sometimes people might feel, oh gosh, is it really large? But I think it breaks down a lot smaller than that as you're going through the modules and the lectures.
Yeah, I agree. So for business and law, excuse me, we cover 6 modules in a semester, and you'd have a lecture in each, so a 2-hour lecture. So it's about 12 hours of lectures. And then especially in the law classes, you might have a tutorial or two. So a tutorial would be 1 hour. So that might add an extra 2 hours to your week. So maybe 14 hours of lectures, which is fine. Like I kind of have one a day. My veterinary friends do kind of make fun of me because they're in 9 to 5 every day, and I'm just in every now and again. But then you have to do your independent, you do a bit of reading and catching up with your work and that kind of thing. For the classes, I would say some of the big, like for the big law lectures, you're in with people that are doing law, pure law or law with another subject. And then for a lot of our business modules, we'd be in with a lot of the commerce students. But again, it's those kind of small groups or tutorials where you have a smaller group and you get to chat to people then, or it is fine. It's not too much when you're actually in the class. In practice, it's okay.
Perfect. Thanks very much. And one thing I think we didn't probably touch on, and there is a question here, is just on assessment. And I will probably finish up now because we're coming on 7:05, and I know we said we'd finish. But just on the types of assessment, I know it's quite varied. Molly, you mentioned independent learning, so that's a big part of the school. But I don't know, Rory, do you want to comment a little bit on assessment and how it's not all kind of lectures and then exam based, how it's quite, spread out across the year?
Yeah, for sure. I know from my perspective, there is that healthy balance between, group work and then kind of assessments throughout the duration of the semester. And then obviously, for most of the modules, you will have some sort of final year exam. Some of them may be kind of in person, and then some of them may be online or whatever. But yeah, there's definitely that healthy balance where it's not all weighted towards the end of your final exams. It's about how much work you're doing throughout as well, which I suppose is really important, that you're continuously learning as you go along with your degree, and it's not just weighted on one final thing at the end. So they do it varies. So some might be worth 40 to 60% throughout, and then some might be worth more like 80 or 70 or 80%. But for the most part, there's at least 20, 30, kind of 40, 50% that I would say across all modules you'll have done in the lead up to your exam, whether that be group work or whether it be a continuous assessment of some sort. So yeah, for sure.
Great. Thanks very much. I think it's running late, so I think we could stay here all night with questions. There is some questions that I haven't got back to, so I'll be able to have access to everybody's emails. So I'll follow up in the next couple of days with those questions. But maybe before we finish up, we might ask one closing question of everybody, maybe. And I always think maybe if you think back, when you were filling out your CAO form, I know the dates are looming and people are making big decisions. If you can think back to where you were maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and what you were thinking and where you are now, and a little piece of advice that you might offer somebody. I think we can finish up there then. We go around the same. Rory,
Yeah, for sure. I kind of was in that position where, I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. But if I was to give you a bit of advice, I'd say, look, don't worry about it. Kind of everything eventually will work out. So if you do decide to choose commerce, which I ultimately did, I was like, look, there is that option to specialize. So if you really go into your degree and you don't like a certain element of it, UCD are very helpful in terms of, choosing modules that you actually like. And there's always that option to, I suppose, choose there's the option to choose electives where you can choose something completely different to your actual degree, whether that be science or whatever. So I would say don't worry about it, but if you are thinking of going down sort of a generic degree, I think Quinn is a great platform there for you, and there is always that option to, I suppose, choose whatever you want from there on.
Molly?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the maybe cringy, but the traditional what's for you won't pass you. I know a lot of students as well are probably studying for their mocks at the moment, maybe, and you're a bit stressed. And it really does, it all works out. It's not the be all and end all. And there are so many different paths to get to where you want to go at the end of the day anyway. So I would say try and relax if you can, and it all works out in the end.
Great. Mihaela?
Yeah, so if you do even have the slightest interest in maths, I guess definitely do pick economics and finance. You don't need to get 100% in all your maths modules to make it till the end. In final year, you can specialize in like economics or just finance and not in the maths and stats routes. And I think the economics and finance course just has very like motivated people, and you'll be in a very, very good environment with loads of people who are going for the same thing as you. So it's just a great course to pick.
Great. Thank you, Mihaela. And Rory, with final words.
I would say don't be worrying about the choice. I mean, like if you come to Quinn, you'll be supported. There's a great community here, and the staff are just they're very good to look out for you. And there's a wide range of supports. And like they've all said, you know, the courses here are flexible, and you can really do whatever you want to do, even if you haven't decided yet. If you do come here.
Thanks very much, Rory. And I suppose that's something that we would always say, you know, if I'm talking to students, a lot of people would put focus on maybe what do I want to be, or where do I want to go, or what job do I want. And I think if you're making your decision now, you don't really need to have that decision made. I think what's really important, I would always say now at this stage, is to, you know, look at the course that you're interested in. Will it interest me? Will I enjoy myself for the next 3 or 4 years? Because if you enjoy what you're doing, the rest will come. You know, it will fall into place over the couple of years, and you will get more out of it when you pick a course and a program that's of interest to you. So I would say, you know, do your research, have a little look, make sure you understand. It is worth looking at the modules and the programs and just delving a little bit in, particularly to the ones that you're really putting down at the top of your application, so you know what you're going to learn. And if you pick the course that's for you, I think you'll excel and do really, really well. And I hope that this evening we've certainly given you some overview of what it's like to come and study with us here at Quinn and some of the opportunities we can offer. Maeve, any closing thoughts before we?
No, just a thank you for great questions from the
course,
audience, and especially for, I guess, a really generous sort of and frank sharing of your experience from each of our students. You're our best ambassadors. Really, the student voice is where it's at in terms of understanding what life is like here. And we're really proud of our students. So thanks, folks, and thanks everybody for being on the call, and Valerie for bringing us all together this evening.
Thanks very much. And if anybody does have any questions over the next couple of weeks or couple of days, there's no problem. Contact me directly. I'll happily to talk to anybody after today.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Good luck with your decisions. Bye, folks. Have a good evening. Okay, I think we're offline, but just to say thanks everybody, and I think we're good to sign off. Is that okay, Valerie? But does anybody have any questions or anything you want to sort of flag before we stop? You're on mute there, but I think we're pretty sorted.
Yeah, I'm just going to answer 1 or 2 questions here for people and then get back. Thanks. I think there's still a couple of people watching, but thank you very much, everybody.
We'll head off. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.